بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. We have gotten to the section of what is impermissible without wudu. قال المصنف رحمه الله: فصل: لا يحل لغير المتوضئ صلاة ولا طواف ولا مس نسخة القرآن العظيم ولا جلدها ولا بيده ولا بعود ونحوه إلا الجزء منها المتعلم فيه ولا مس لوح القرآن العظيم على غير الوضوء إلا لمتعلم فيه أو معلم يصححه والصبي في مس القرآن كالكبير والإثم على مناوله له. It is impermissible for someone to pray without wudu. And obviously, this is during a default scenario in which he is ineligible for tayammum. It is permissible for someone to pray without wudu if he is eligible for tayammum, either due to the absence of water or otherwise. And we say it is impermissible. That means the prayer is invalid, and also he is additionally sinful for praying without wudu. Obviously, this is if he is knowing. If he is simply mistaken, then there's no sin for entering salah without wudu, not knowing that you do not have wudu. However, someone who does, then this is sinful. Similarly for tawaf around the Kaaba and touching the Quran. Both of them, so tawaf is invalid, and both invalid and permissible without wudu. And no touching the Quran, neither by its cover or with your hand or with a bi'udin, or with a stick, or carrying it with a bag or carrying it on a pillow, or any other type of carrying that would imply an attempt to circumvent the Sharia, trying to carry it by something indirectly, but purposely carrying the Quran. Or touching a lawh of the Quran. So a lawh is something that is, it's a wooden board on which students write a daily portion of the Quran to memorize and then erase it the next day and then rewrite a new verse or a selection of verses the next day, and so on and so forth. And this is also impermissible to touch without wudu, due to the fact that it is still Quran, even though it is erased and then rewritten. It is still Quran while it is there. Except for someone who is learning the Quran or someone who is teaching the Quran. And the reason they are an exception to it and they are allowed to touch the part of the Quran they are learning without wudu is due to the fact that if they had to repeat wudu every time they touch the Quran, it would become difficult for them to learn and teach. And therefore, this could lead to people abandoning teaching the Quran and learning the Quran. As opposed to someone who is simply reciting the Quran for the sake of worship, not for the sake of memorization and learning, then someone who is simply doing tilawah, simply reciting, then is impermissible regardless. And this does not relate to actually reading the Quran. A person can read the Quran without wudu. The issue is touching the Quran. As for reading it from your memory or reading it from, for example, something written on a wall, then this is permissible. And a question that came up was, is it permissible to take the Quran, for example, from a bookstore if it's covered in plastic? And the answer is, this is also one of the exceptions, that if the Quran is carried for the purpose of transporting goods, for example, either traveling from city to city or bringing it from a market, either on the back of a horse or in a car or in luggage in a plane, then this does not count as carrying the Quran. Rather, what would count would be intentionally carrying the Quran. So if someone were to place the Quran on a pillow for the sake of moving this Quran or holding this Quran, he wants to read from the Quran, but he knows he can't touch it, and so he puts it on a pillow, opens it, or has someone open the page and put it on a pillow and he holds the pillow. This is impermissible because the intention was to hold the Quran. As for someone who is placing it in something or on something such as a plastic bag or in a car and moving it, this does not count as circumventing the ruling on being impermissible to touch. Rather, what is considered here is the fact that he's transporting the Quran, he's simply moving it for the sake of moving it. Okay. And it is impermissible also for a child to touch it. And because a child is not mukallaf with haram and halal, the sin here would be on an adult who gives it to him. So an adult is also impermissible to give it to a child without wudu. ومن صلى بغير وضوء عامدا فهو كافر والعياذ بالله. So al-Akhdari rahimahullah says, whoever prays without wudu is a kafir, and we seek Allah's protection from this. This is a dangerous statement if it's taken literally, because kufr bil-fatwa and kufr bil-fiqh are two different things. Kufr in theoretical fiqh, a purely academic understanding of ahkam and of relationship between people and between Allah is different from how we treat things in the public sphere. Praying without wudu purposefully, according to most fuqaha, is not enough, if not all fuqaha, is not enough to declare someone a kafir in public life and give him the punishment of ridda if it is applicable. This is simply stating that someone who is purposely praying without wudu, knowing that it is a condition for prayer, and knowing that he doesn't have wudu from the beginning, yet still not caring and still praying, this is almost a mockery of the Sharia. And because a mockery of the Sharia is kufr, this is what the statement says. And we have no statement of this specific, a specific quote like this from Imam Malik. Rather, this is a quote from Abu Hanifa radiallahu anhu, and the purpose for this statement being here is due to the fact that, as we said many times, this text is for beginners. It was in previous times when it was written, and after that, it was usually read by very young students, and the statement was placed here to make sure that students do not fall into a habit of mocking the Sharia or trying to circumvent the Sharia and being careless of the rulings when they grow up. So this is just to make people afraid of doing such an action of praying without wudu purposefully, knowing that he does not have wudu. He could be a disbeliever on the Day of Judgment. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could punish him for mocking the Sharia. However, you cannot declare him a kafir simply for doing this, because declaring someone a kafir, either for mockery of Sharia or for different reasons, has specific rules and specific conditions that must be filled before this ruling is applied in public life. And that is the end of the section of the things that are impermissible without wudu. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين.